Hi, everyone, and we are back. We are just wrapping up our She Is Me at Sea sneak preview day. And last but not least is Carmen Reeves Jenkins. Sorry about that, Carmen. And Carmen is the CEO and founder of INR Healing for Abundant Living. She is joining us on the ship May 2nd through 6th next May. So we will be there, and I'm really excited that you're here, Carmen. Thank you.
Well, good day to everyone, depending on what time zone you're in. For some, it's probably midday, later in the day. I am on the East Coast, and so it's evening time for me, but it's still an abundant time. And just come before you to share just a sneak peek, just a little bit about what I will be sharing in more detail during the She Is Me cruise on next year in 2026. And so my platform primarily is to empower and encourage women to help them move forward in their vision, their life mission, their goals, and their dreams. And I primarily focus on women of color, ages 30 and over. And that is primarily because I am a woman of color, and I vividly remember what it was like moving into my 30s and still living that life beyond. And so I am one who is very passionate and very intentional about walking alongside other women that have a need to see their lives being fulfilled in living color. And so, just to share a little bit with you about one of the ways that I like to assist women, and that is to help them to know who they are. It's very important that you have a clear understanding of who you are, your identity. One of the big questions in the world, and it's been in the world for a long time, particularly for women, is who am I? And often that comes from a very deep place. It comes many times from experiences that we've had in life, things that we've tried to do, things that people have told us we should do, how we should be, and who we should be. And sometimes you get to a point where that's just not enough anymore. And you come to a meeting of yourself, really wanting to know, who am I? And so that's my question for you on this evening. Do you really know who you are? Aside from any titles, aside from any roles, aside from the dues of life and the places that you are able to go, when you just sit with yourself and you look at yourself in the mirror, who are you? And so we're going to do just a real quick visualization. We're going to do it now, and then we're going to do it again at the end so that you can take some notes in between and do a comparison. As we move forward in this segment on tonight, are you able to glean a bigger picture of who you are? But every day when you look in the mirror, who is it that you see? Do you see the person that you want to be? Do you see the person that you sense in your spirit that you're supposed to be? Or do you see the person that other people have told you you should be? Are you living a life striving to perform, or are you living your authentic self? And so, what do I mean by that? Your authentic self is the person that aligns with your values, with your beliefs, with the inner essence of who you are. When I wake up in the morning and I look in the mirror now, at this point in time in my life, I see Karmin. I don't see anything other than that. But there are many times in the past where I did not have a clear understanding of who Karmin is. And a lot of that came from, as it does for many women, from our childhood, from how we were raised, the environments we were raised in, the people that raised us, and our life experiences. And so, what I want to share with you on this evening is for you to unequivocally know that you are empowered from the inside out to overcome anything that happens in your life. Also, to overcome anything that has happened in your life. Because the capacity that you have as a woman, it's powerful, it's mighty, it's abundant. Just think about the things that as women we're capable of doing. We're able to nurture, we're able to give birth, we're able to take something that looks like it's not useful and it won't turn out to be anything and create magnificent outcomes because it's in us. We are so fully equipped to do so many things. But what happens often is, as women, unfortunately, many of us never get to the point of fulfilling our full capacity. And so I want to encourage you on this evening to not live below your capacity, to start setting in place, setting up, building structures within yourself, adding to what's already within you so that you can continue to see forward movement, that you can continue to see success, that you continually feel a sense of satisfaction out of your life, and that you are enjoying your life. Many times in our lives as women, we get things done, but we're not always enjoying what we're doing. We're not always feeling a sense of satisfaction. We might feel sense of accomplishment, but we may not have achieved things to the degree that we feel satisfied. So whether you're married, whether you're single, whether you're widowed, whether you're divorced, whether you have children or you don't have children, there is still within us, in our very core, a space and place that still yet seeks and desires fulfillment. So, empowered to overcome is it's a movement, it's a mantra that I have. And as I said, I want to move women forward from where they are based on what they share with me that they want to see come to pass in their lives. And so I have a way of helping women to do that. And I'm going to share just a little bit of that with you on this evening. And so I help women to look at not only who they are, but why they are. Why are we the way that we are as women? Our characteristics, our personalities, our mannerisms, our style, our ways of speaking and engaging. Where did that come from? And as we're moving through this world, we're in a sense and a time state now that so many things are being taken away. So many things are being held up. So many things are being restricted that we have to be able to dig deep within ourselves, pulling up and pulling out all of the strength that we have, and then being able to replenish that strength so that we can keep on keeping on. So our strengths are very important to be able to recognize. What's my strength is not the same for others. Some of the strengths that we have were developed early in our life, and some are being developed. And then we have those areas that people will refer to as weaknesses or deficits. And I encourage you and invite you to begin to think about that and verbalize what that has been referred to as a weakness into a different way of thinking about it. I want you to think about rewiring the way that you think about yourself and rewiring how you hear what people say about you. When we settle in to what people say about us and it's coming from a negative source, that has great impact on how we see ourselves. It may not have a conscious impact, but below the surface, our motivations for doing things, our motivations for the goals that we set in our lives, our achievements, our desires, our values, our beliefs are all intertwined into how we see ourselves. And so when we allow people to speak negativity into our ear gates, it doesn't just stay there. It goes from our ears to our brain, and our brain processes it in a way that sometimes filters out the pollutants and sometimes not. Sometimes some of those pollutants take residence in our mind, in our hearts, in our spirits, in our soul, which is our mind, our will, and our emotions. And then the growth of those words that have been spoken began to be nurtured by more negativity. And so, what can happen if that's not recognized, we begin to operate from a negative reserve and not from a positive one. We began to operate from a negative deficit and not from a positive wealth basket or a positive wealth reservoir. And so when we allow the negative to outweigh the positive, what it does, it begins to make our essence weak. It begins to weaken our energy source. It begins to weaken our thought processes. It begins to weaken our emotions. It begins to weaken our physical strength. And so it's not that we are weak, but it's often that what has been deposited in us has been built up to the point so much that we are pulling now from the negative and not pulling from a positive inner source. So the capacity that we carry to overcome, it's there. It just has to be tapped into. It has to be reinforced. It has to be enhanced. It has to be encouraged. And that is what I am passionate about doing. So often we need to also be aware that it's not only important to not settle into a negative mindset, but it's also important to be aware of the threats to our mind, the threats to our emotions, the threats to our spirituality, the threats to our sexuality, the threats to our physical abilities, and also the triggers. So if you're taking any notes at all, write down threats and write down triggers. And then I want you to merge the two together because they can be one and the same. Fear plays a primal role in the lives of women. Fear has been a part of moving in the lives of women for ages, and not moving in a good way, because fear can be motivating, but I'm talking about the type of fear that's incapacitating. I'm talking about the kind of fear that's oppressive. I'm talking about the kind of fear that's crippling, the kind of fear that when someone just mentions something to you, it triggers something that has happened in a time past, and it comes into the present to halt you from moving forward. And often it happens just like that. Something is said, something is sensed inside, and it stops you in your tracks. When we know internally that we have the ability to get it done, but it's almost like someone has attached a ball and chain to our ankles. And so our mind is saying, go forward, do it. But the weight that has been attached to us is hindering us from moving forward. Again, an example of weakening. So if you don't remember anything else from what I am sharing, believe and know you're not weak, but there are things that come at you. There are things that have come at you. There are things that will come to try to weaken your capacity. And so the more we pour out, the more that has to be poured back in. So we have to replenish so that we have a reserve of strength to keep going, even when it feels like we may not be able to. We tap into our reserve and we continue to speak words of encouragement to ourselves. You can do it. Look what you've done before. And now you have the history to say, if I did it then, I can do it now. And I'm going to be able to do it in the future. Whatever that it is for you, you can overcome even the most heinous, the most traumatic experiences in your life. How do I know that? Because I've had many of them. And the more I learn about what I carry, the more I am convinced that the only person that can stop me from believing who I am is me. And so threats and triggers are very important to be aware of, and then also to have a plan of action that when those threats and those triggers come up. So you see, I'm not telling you to get rid of them. If you can, that's good, but that's not the case for everybody. So awareness is very important, and then having a plan of action is essential. So when a trigger happens, having a plan of how I am now going to combat that, how I'm going to not allow what has just been triggered to take control, to take rule, to have ownership over what it is that I am to do, so that it won't stop that forward movement. So let's think about it in this way. If I can rewire how I think about myself, if I can reframe how I see myself and reclaim who I really am, then I can step into my authentic self. And that gives me the insight to be able to project, to foresee in the future those things that I can get done. And I put that plan in place to move forward in a strategic way. That makes me unstoppable. Now, are there going to be things that come up to slow down that movement? Absolutely. But slowing down is different than coming to a dead stop. So Being able to keep moving gives the moment by moment, hour by hour, day by day, month by month, quarter by quarter, year by year proof and the evidence that is irrefutable. So you might say, but I've tried some of these kinds of things before. Do it again. There is a scientifically proven fact that when a habit is developed, that it takes at least 21 days to change the habit. Well, the habit doesn't just change by itself. There has to be something done to replace the habit. So let's talk about cigarette smoking as an example. I used to work in a medical clinic as a licensed clinical social worker, and I provided medical clinical counseling services for patients that would come into the medical clinic. And one of the things that was a part of my job was to provide smoking cessation counseling. And a part of being able to do that was working in a multidisciplinary team so that I had to have a good understanding of the medical history of the patient. And then I had to conduct a series of assessments so that I could get a complete picture of not only the patient's health history and their current health state, but also being able to hear from the patient where they wanted to be in their health. And then we would put in place a plan along with some medical interventions. And sometimes those medical interventions included a cigarette patch. It may have been some other types of things, gum that you have that you can chew, and even various kinds of things, candy, ice chips. And those things were replacements. They were to help to replace the habit of smoking that had been developed, not only psychologically, but chemically, because there had to be a different chemical exchange taking place so that what was being consumed from the cigarette could slowly be extinguished and be replaced by the chemicals that were going to be released from the patch and the chemicals that were going to be released by the gum. And so we would slowly rebuild. We would take away in one area and build up in another area till we got to a place where nothing chemical was needed, because psychologically, mentally, the rewiring had been done to the point where the individual could then follow through without smoking at all. Because many times people would smoke because of their stress, many times people would smoke for various other kinds of reasons. So the immediate psychological go-to would be to get the cigarette. But what was happening on the inside of the body related to the chemicals was another area. So we had to work in three different veins. We had to work on rewiring the thoughts. We had to work on reframing the chemical sensations. And we had to work on reclaiming their independence, their sense of security, their sense of selves, their worth, their value, their goals, their dreams, and so forth and so on. So as I did then, it's the same things that I do when I work with women one-on-one or within a group. I'm still at the helm, helping them to move their lives forward, to rewire their thoughts, reframe how they see and feel about themselves, reclaim their goals, their desires, their dreams, their visions, their identity, to live their abundant, authentic selves. And I know with empirical evidence, not only scientifically, because neuroscience and neurogenics tells us that the brain can be rewired. We have evidence from when people have had strokes. We have evidence from when people have had paralysis. We have evidence from when people have had concussions and various types of brain injuries and diseases that impact the brain, that the brain cells can be regenerated. They can regrow. And so knowing, not only is there scientific proof, but there's also behavioral proof. There's also psychological proof that within us, the way that we have been formed and fashioned and created is miraculous. It's marvelous. And we can pull out what is in us to live a satisfied and fulfilling life. So, knowing who we are in our core, we can't skip that. It is a part of the root system of having those deep roots like a big tree, that no matter when the rain, no matter what storm, no matter what electrical occurrence happens, the phone lines can fall down around on the tree, and that tree is so deeply rooted and the trunk is so strong that nothing is going to move it. Now, are there times when big, thick trees have been uprooted? Yes, but it takes a whole lot. So it does for us as well. But our core values, when we are able to dig deep and know what they are and get core values clear that are non-negotiable, no matter what comes, no matter who comes, who goes, no matter what anyone says or thinks, these values that I have in my core, I am not going to change. It is what it is. And I am who I am, and I am going to be who I am meant to be. That's empowerment. That's the mindset of an overcomer. And it can be something that's going to take a little bit of involvement and effort. It can be something that's going to take a lot. But the root of how that situation, that circumstance is approached, it's coming from the same place. So your root system, it's got to get stronger. And it may be very strong right now, but again, look at the world that we're living in. We haven't seen our worst days yet. We have got to be so firmly rooted and grounded in knowing who we are and understanding our full capability and capacity that nothing and no one is going to uproot us without a fight. It's going to take a whole lot. Have you ever watched, aside from a storm, have you ever watched a tree that is years old being removed from the ground? When those tree companies come, they don't just come with little tools and a little truck. They come with heavy duty industrial equipment, big, thick chains, and they work at it. And they work at it. And they work at it. And it takes some time. And sometimes they even have to cut the tree down to a point so that they can wrap that chain around it and some other things that they put to secure so that the chain doesn't just flop off, because they know it's going to take some time and some effort. As it is for those threats that come to uproot our sense of self, and threats that come to skew our identity, to tell us as women that we're not valuable, that we're not worthy, that we're insignificant. Those threats have been worked on for some time, as has the sense of self of women. But as we continue to live in this world, the voices are going to keep coming. But the stronger we are independently and the stronger that we are together, when we link arms as women, look at our history. When women make up their minds to do something, it gets done. So, what have you made up your mind about? What is it, whether you have started working on it or not? What have you made up your mind about that you're going to get done? And if you haven't yet made up your mind about something that you're going to get done, what is it that you desire? What is it that you want to see different in your life? When you look in the mirror, who is it that you want to see? And do you know how to have that vision of who you are? Who you want to see is already in you. You just have to have someone to speak that life back into you, to keep encouraging you, to be with you, to walk with you, to be there for you. And that's a part of what She Is Me does. There are women all around the world, and we are coming together this week and in times moving forward to continue to speak life, to continue to encourage one another, to be each other's cheerleader. No matter what stage of life you're in, we all need some kind of support. Whether you're the CEO of your own company, whether you're the head of your household, no matter what you find yourself doing at this point in time in your life, you may be just graduating from high school and trying to figure out what your next step is. Did you know that no matter what it is you're doing in this world, someone is watching you? Your life is speaking volumes to someone. It may be speaking to many people, but you have influence. So never allow yourself to compare yourself to what someone else may be doing. You don't know what it took for them to get there. You don't really even know if what they say they're doing, particularly with social media, we can pretend to be doing many things. But when you are authentically who you are, you don't have to pretend. I mentioned performing earlier. Being an empowered woman, living an overcomer's life, living in a life abundantly is not about pretense. It's about authenticity. Again, authenticity is aligning who you are with your values, your beliefs, the core sense of who you are on the inside, loving on yourself. And as women, some of us, we have challenges with loving ourselves. We say we do, but the truth of the matter is, many of us have not learned how to love ourselves. Let's take it a step further. Let's go a little bit deeper. Many of us, we haven't even learned what love is without a condition being attached, without an expectation being connected. And so a part of authenticity is also learning how to love self. When I am able to authentically love who I am for the way I look, the way I talk, the way I think, the way I walk, I can love others. When I'm not trying to give to get, when it's not a relationship that if I do this for you, you'll do that for me, just being who I am and knowing some are going to accept me for who I am and some are not. And I'm okay with that because I love me for me and I'm okay with me. One of the things that I always say, I am always going to be Team Karmin because that is something that I've learned that no matter when, where, I have to always stand up for me. And now that I have a clear sense of who I am, I can do that. I can say no when I need to say no. I can ask those crucial questions that in my 20s, I would have never asked. I would have just went with the flow. I did go with the flow many times. I allowed myself to be spoken to any kind of way. I allowed myself by some to be treated any kind of way because I didn't know who I was. I didn't have a clear understanding of my core values and my beliefs. I put myself after other people, helping them move their plans forward, going along to get along, just fitting in. I did that in my 20s. I did that in my 30s. I did it in my 40s. And I did it a little bit in my 50s. And I got to a point where I said, enough's enough. This, that, I am not doing anymore. And so I made that choice. Did I lose some relationships? Absolutely. But I also gained some relationships. And the gains, the positives, have astronomically outweighed the negatives. And the truth of the matter is, I needed to let those relationships go because, like that ball and chain I mentioned earlier, they were holding me back. So, what do you need to let go of? Who do you need to let go of? The what and the who might be how you see yourself, how you feel about yourself. And it might be that old version of you. It's time. It's time for you to step into the best you can be. So, you're going to receive some information on ways to reach me, to contact me. I'm available. I'm here. And if you have any questions, let's dialogue. If you're at the point right now that you know you want to step forward, let's connect. And don't hesitate. Reach out quickly, and I will respond. Thank you for joining me, and thank you for your time.
Carmen, thank you. That was lovely. It feels so good to just talk about these things, about how, you, like you said, in your 20s and your 30s, and like you just went with things and you didn't necessarily know who you were enough to say no or to stand up for yourself, or and that's so important. And like I was just like memories came flooding back of things that I agreed to, that I said, now I'm like, why did I do that? But it's so important to do the work and to know yourself, because we grow up with all these messages and all of this information just flooding at us, and we sort of just take it and say, that's who I am. And it's not until much later that we remember, after it's, pokes us enough times, right? That
Mhm.
that's not who we are, or we're sometimes don't even know who we are because we've been so indoctrinated with all of these messages and these supposed tos and should be's and everything else. But
Absolutely.
thank you so much for those reminders. And something that we've talked about all day, especially with the leadership cruise coming up, is how those of us who are teaching this now and mentoring others is something that we didn't have.
Hmm.
And that's what's driving us, right? That's what's burning in us to do, because we didn't have it and we so desperately needed it. um, but now we're able, because we know this, we're able to stand up and say, we want to help you, we want to show you the way, we want to help you get to that self.
Yeah.
um, and so I love what you do. I used to have a program called the Vision Partner Program, and it was sort of the same thing that you're talking about. It's like, I
Oh,
want to sit with you and figure out what you want to do and where you want to go, and I want to help you get there. I want to hold your hand, because I remember thinking, in building this ecosystem, and thinking, what was the one thing that I really needed that I didn't have when I was coming up through in business and in just growing up and
yeah.
in marriage and divorce and all that stuff. Like, I didn't have that mentor. I didn't have somebody, like, I had a grandmother and stuff, but I didn't have, like, she couldn't answer questions about work. She'd just say, screw those people. And, it wasn't, that was, but not give me, sort of that guidance that I might have needed with experience and wisdom in
Yeah.
that particular, um, that particular thing. So I love what you're doing. I love what all the women that are in this on this leadership cruise are doing. And I cannot stress this enough. If you can make it, if you can come on this cruise with us, you will leave a changed woman.
Absolutely.
Yeah, the women who are joining us are phenomenal, and you just got a taste today. I mean, we had what's 7 women today, 6 women today, from the cruise, and there are 30 of us on the cruise that are doing workshops and talks,
Yeah.
and you'll get to sit down with us and have dinner and drinks and play and just have fun and just be with us. um, and what is that, Carmen? You might know. What's the saying that, like, when you hang around the people you want to be like, or something like that, right? Like,
Only one I could think of is that you begin to talk and look like them, but I can't.
no, there's this great saying. I don't know. I am the worst with like,
I can't think of it now either.
I'm the worst. I can never remember exactly.
Birds
My
of a
mom,
feather flock together. Like, I don't know.
yeah, what do they call? I don't even remember what they call them now. But I bought a book because my mom used to talk in these codes all the time. But I could never remember them. Like, two in the hand is worth one in the bush. I don't know. There's like all these crazy things, right? And I'm
Yeah,
like,
there's a lot of
I don't even remember how to say them right. I don't know. But this saying, the one that I'm trying to think of, is, and it's not really that. It's more business or growth,
them.
human growth. It's like, hang around the people that you want to be like, or that you want to learn from, or that if you're trying to get to that next level, go and hang around with those people that are
Absolutely.
at that level. And so what I'm trying to say is, if you want to be a leader, you want to build community, you want to learn from the women who are really doing something and changing the world, then you need to come with us, because
Absolutely. Yeah.
um,
I always say you wanna be mentored and hang around the eagles, because they can teach you how to soar and how to stay there.
right.
And then you don't want to forget where you've come from. You still want to be relatable, but you don't want to have the majority of your time living as a chicken.
Yeah. Why be a chicken when you could be an eagle, right? Yeah. Chickens are
And
great.
that's what I spent a lot of time in my life doing,
Yeah.
just kind of pecking my way through,
Yeah.
and, periodically looking up and looking forward and having a vision, having goals and having dreams. And then, I can look now in hindsight and see that the best time in my life for me to really be able to sit with myself and figure out who I was when my marriage was dissolving.
Oh, yeah.
I would not have been able to focus, to reframe, to reclaim, to reframe my thoughts and rewire my perception of myself if I was still in the situations that I was in. And so
Absolutely.
sometimes the worst times in our lives actually are the best times.
Right. And it's such a discovery phase when you have spent so many years, and you talked about this, you spend so many years sort of giving of yourself to so many people that you forget who you are, you forget
You
what you
lose yourself. I did.
do. We all do. We've all done it. Um, and you don't even remember, you know, like I said this earlier, you don't even remember how you like your eggs because you're just so used to saying, yeah, I'll have what he's having, right? Or whatever. You don't even, it doesn't even matter really anymore because you want to keep the peace, or you want to just, so you just give in. And self-care, believe it or not, is not just a 10-minute bath with the door closed. So we
No.
have to think about that too. But one of the things that you do when you go through a transformation like that, like a divorce, is you kind of have no other choice but to look at yourself and to look and remember, you know, sort of who you are. There's it's bittersweet, right? Because you're thinking, wow, I thought I was going to do this forever, because it's the what we're sold, right? You get married and you forever and ever kind of thing, and then you no longer have it, and you're like, wow, I'm by myself. So there's this like, yay. And Renisha was talking about, she had her first apartment after a divorce, and how exhilarating that is. But then at the same time, there's this sadness that this thing that was you were such a part of has ended.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But then little by little, you start, you know, like there's a little bit more sunshine every day, and there's a little bit more of you that shows up, and it's fantastic.
Yeah, it's we all have different life experiences and different journeys. And I can very clearly see the various stages of growth but in my life, but I can also see the various stages of deaths, and going through, whether it's a divorce, whether it's a separation, which was in my case, whether it's the loss of a loved one. All of them have their own types of dying, and it's so debilitating
Mm,
that some people never recover.
true.
And that is why I'm so passionate about, as you are, there's things that we can see, some
Mhm.
because we've been there, and we can identify certain things in others, but then some because we just have that ability to have the insight to see. And so when I see a woman that is suffering silently, because of things that she's yet to do, or things that she was not able or allowed to do, it just quickens something in me. And I almost like
Mhm.
have no option or no choice to be
Right.
of availability,
Mhm.
because I so know what that's like.
I do too. Yeah. And yeah, you're right. There's something inside you that just gets switched on, that you're like, okay, I've got to work with, I've got to do this. But that's kind of what drives me every day, waking
Yeah.
up and saying, what impact can I make today?
Mhm.
Who can I influence in a good way? today with something. It could be content,
Absolutely.
it could be my voice, it could be just a message I send somebody, but how can I mean, that's just constantly in my brain. How can I
Yeah.
do
Yeah.
that? Because,
Me too. It could just be a smile because for so many years I didn't smile.
yeah,
I didn't feel like I had anything to smile about. And there's just, so many different challenges. I can speak about the time that I served in the military. I lost a lot of myself then. I accomplished a lot, but I also lost a lot of who I was. I
yeah.
can share about, times where I've experienced sexual abuse and some other things, but the whole, continuum of how we as women are challenged in this world, it covers and crosses all cultures,
Absolutely.
all geographical locations. So, the more I travel, the more I'm able to be on, platforms like this, the more I know that we're more alike than we are different.
Without a doubt. I have traveled all over the world, and I tell as many people who will listen is that the no matter where you go, no matter who you meet, no matter what color their skin is, I guarantee you, we all want the same things. We all want the same things. We want a safe place to live. We want love. We want
Mhm.
to be happy. We want to be free. And that's it. That's humankind. And that's what we are. And anything other than that, anything of any other feeling other than that is that we're all the same and we're all connected is ridiculous. Um, it's just ridiculous.
It is.
And I will fight till my dying day with that. I mean,
I'm with you.
I
I'm with you.
I am told somebody the other day. They asked me if ICE had been in our town, and I said I don't think so. But don't be surprised if you see me on the news getting arrested because I'll be down there fighting
And I
them.
don't know about the arrestment part.
I've never been
Sounds
arrested,
like
but
confinement.
I've never been arrested, but I'm literally that passionate about about stealing people off the streets. Like I am that passionate about the fact that I will not allow it. And the same thing with any woman that I know that needs my help. Like I am right there because I know what it's like to live in shame and to live in that judgment and to live
Yeah,
in a world where I couldn't say anything and I so desperately needed help. So
absolutely.
one of the things that I have just dedicated my life to is being here for any woman that needs help, that needs guidance, that needs connection. And that's why I built She Is Me, and that's why all of you are here. And
Yeah.
so thank you so much. I
You're very
I
welcome.
have
I just want women to know that I see them
mhm,
and they're important, they're valuable, they're necessary and needed, no
absolutely
matter what the world says. The world could not function and make it without women.
no. And we are rising
For
up.
so
It
many
might not
reasons.
seem like it right now, but we are because we are all tired of being treated less than and being treated like we're invisible and that we don't matter when we matter. And humankind could not be without us. So don't let anyone tell you that you don't matter. Don't let anyone tell you that you're less than or convince you in any way otherwise. And if you need a reminder, you can call one of us because we will let you know how important you are.
Right.
So,
And it's not too late. I know I talk with women and I felt, that way a few times myself that, I'm getting older and no, I am 65 years old and I am just getting started. It
mhm.
is not too late.
The
Whether you're
60s.
whether you're 40, whether you're 70 or 80. I just saw a clip of a 102-year-old woman and she still wears her heels. She still dresses up
I
every
saw
day,
her.
puts her
I
makeup on, and she dances and she has a great time. So it's not too late.
No, and let me tell you, my Mexican grandmother wore 4-inch heels. She was 5 foot tall. She wore 4-inch heels until she was in her 90s, and she fell once and hurt her back. And then after that, she just wore her little slippers around, but
Yeah.
she was always dressed up. She always had her makeup on. She always had her hair done. She used to love to color her hair. She didn't have blue hair or anything, but she, for one time you'd see her, she'd have blonde hair, and then she'd have red hair, and then she'd have
Right.
black hair. And,
I used to be that way.
she always had. I mean, it's so beautiful and so
Yeah,
amazing.
I just change the styles every other week. Like, what did you do to your hair this week?
But I mean, you can just express yourself and
Right.
be amazing. And yeah, I saw her. She had that beautiful green dress on and those little white sandal. I saw that.
Yes,
I'm like,
yes.
oh,
I
she's
saw
so
her on
lovely.
Instagram, but yeah,
Yeah.
it was so refreshing.
So it's not over. You're right, and it doesn't matter when you think that. I mean, I've talked to women who've been divorced, have been married 60 years, and then they got divorced, and they're like, now what? Like my whole entire life has revolved around this marriage. Now what? I'm like, now you have your own stuff. Now you have your own heir. Now you can just decide to do whatever you want to do, and they've never even considered that.
Yeah.
So,
Day by day.
yep, yeah. Thank you, Carmen. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Lisa.
All right. Thanks, everyone. We are going to say goodnight. Tomorrow is workshop day. So if you should have received the links to the workshops. If you haven't, just let me know and we'll get those out to you. But we'll see you all in the workshops tomorrow. So thank you.
Be empowered, everyone.